Well, hello. Welcome to Man 4781, Sustainable Strategic Planning. And this is going to be an introduction to the course. This should be one of the last courses that you take before capstone, this and Man 4783. If you are taking this as one of your first couple of courses, you might want to reconsider it because we assume that you already know much of the background sustainability information, and we are adding on some of the sustainable strategic planning tools on top of that. This is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to cover a little bit about the course content, talk about the texts, what my learning philosophy is, some of the different kinds of assignments, the e-portfolio assignments and the in-class activities, and then finally a little bit on grading. Now, our goal in this course and the next course, if you're taking it, is training professionals in sustainability. To do that in this course, we take a look, first of all, is what does it take to be a sustainable leader? What kind of internal strategies should you be implementing so that your organization is more sustainable? What are the external environmental factors, business environment factors that can affect the success of your sustainable initiatives? How do you do statistical analysis on the survey data that you may be gathering for your strategic plan? How do you implement sustainable change? How do you market your green initiatives? How do you implement your sustainable strategic plan? And finally, how do you implement some continuous improvement? Now, for the sustainability management program only, I'm just going to cover this very briefly because not everybody is going to take that course. But if you're taking that course in Mod 2, it kind of follows on from this. And we're going to look at all different kinds of audits, budgets, reporting, process audits, baseline audits, product, support, risk, and sustainable improvements. Now for this course, there is a fair amount of reading. We have two textbooks, Making Sustainability Work and the Green to Gold Business Playbook. The good news is for those people who are continuing on in the next course is that they're the same two books. And neither one is extraordinarily expensive, but they are excellent and they have a lot of sustainability tools in there. Now, I'm not talking about physical tools, I'm talking about management tools, strategies, activities, approaches, things of that nature. So we have the two textbooks. We also have a weekly PDF and some video tutorials that will help you prepare for your assignments and to prepare for class. And finally, we have a whole slew of supplemental materials. These are demonstrations of how to do some of those sustainability tools and some theoretical background. Now, if you are in the sustainability management program and you are taking that capstone and not the capstone that the other students take, then I would strongly recommend that you download all of the supplemental materials because this course and the next course help you prepare for capstone, and this will give you lots of research material. Now, even if you're not going on to the next course or not taking the sustainability capstone, it's still a really good idea to download these materials because it will give you a great sustainability library. A little bit on my personal learning style. Now, I happen to have a doctorate in curriculum and instruction, so I care a lot about you learning the material. And so you will notice that if you go to a class that is pure lecture, you are probably only going to remember 5% of that, and that is on the top of this slide. Lecture, recall is, research shows, is 5%. And then it goes all the way up to the bottom. But we try to have a little bit of all of these things in there. I really don't do a whole lot of lecturing. I will talk for about 10 minutes and then I will break you up into teams and you'll actually do some of the work. Now that's why it's so important to do the reading in advance, the textbook readings and the supplemental materials, so that you can do the online assignments as well as prepare for in class. Then there are how-to videos that will help you learn the material as well. You'll have a chance to see some demonstrations of the various tools, both in the videos, but also you'll be watching presentations that I do, that other students do, that show how to use various tools, and you'll find out that you will be doing those presentations as well. Now, we have a lot of in-class teamwork, a little bit outside of class, but a lot of it in class, and that will be your opportunity to discuss the different tools and strategies, and which will help you learn more and retain more. The majority of what we're going to be doing will fall into the projects and the e-portfolio, which I'll go into in a minute. These are an opportunity for you to actually practice with the various tools. I had a student about a year ago that said, well, this is kind of like a workshop. Well, yes, I want you to practice the tools and I want you to practice them in a setting where I can also give you feedback, since I've been doing them for years. And so I hope to be able to give you lots of practice in class, and then you'll also have practice with some of the online activities. And then finally, you also will get a chance to teach yourself by giving presentations and workshops, which are part of what you're doing in this. And the best way of learning and retaining material is actually to have to teach it. And so we are going to do that as well. A little bit more about the course activities in developing the sustainable strategic plans. What we do is teach you some of the leadership tools, some of the internal structures that are more sustainable, more philosophically sustainable, and some of the HR strategies, how to develop and conduct a survey, and then how to analyze it, how to develop a sustainable change management plan, how to develop a green marketing campaign, how to implement your sustainability plan, and then finally how to set it up so that you are continuously improving in the area of sustainability. Now, in all of these, we use all kinds of different helps and different tools that you can use. We use Word templates, PowerPoint animation, PowerPoint design, Excel. And if you aren't comfortable or familiar with all of these things, by the end of this course and the next course, you will be very good at it. By the time you finish, if you're taking the sustainability capstone, by the time you finish with that, you will be an expert in many of these things. We're also going to use a lot of online coordination and diagram tools, survey development tools, and we're going to learn how to use social media and website templates and newsletter templates. And finally, we're going to learn how to use the ePortfolio tool that is embedded in my courses. And all of these things in order to do all of the course activities. Now, this is a very project-oriented course. We have projects that stretch over the entire 8 weeks. There are two main categories of projects. The first is the individual portfolio, where you get to practice all of the different tools that are in that part of the assignment by designing a blog series on a sustainable business or nonprofit. The goal is to create this professional e-portfolio that showcases your expertise. You will evaluate each other's, giving each other's a peer review so that hopefully you'll go and improve it and have the strongest, most professional e-portfolio possible. And the assessment is your final e-portfolio in week 8. For teams, the project will be a real-world strategic planning project. And it is real world, and we're actually going to do these things. And then you're going to learn how to communicate it in many different ways using multiple channels like event planning and implementation, presentations, charts, e-newsletters, websites, social media, and training. So we're going to handle all of those things in these projects. Just a little bit more on the e-portfolio project. The focus of it is a new business or nonprofit that you would like to run. And so therefore you are going to develop a strategic plan for it. But that's just kind of, this is like a story within a story, because your e-portfolio project is just, or I should say your new business or nonprofit is just the basis for which you are going to then create your e-portfolio assignments. So you will be looking at learning and practicing 3 or 4 sustainability tools each week, applying them to this new business or nonprofit. But the e-portfolio that you are going to create is really going to be an educational blog for all the other people in this business. So what you're going to do is to prepare blogs that will help people in your business or people in your type of nonprofit to operate in a more sustainable fashion. And that, let's see, we will be doing that through this educational blog format. I'll show it to you in a minute. It'll have text and images. It'll be 1,000 to 1,500 words. It will include an explanation of each sustainability tool, a background, and maybe a little how-to on that. Then you will use your new business or nonprofit as the example that you're using in order to educate everybody else in your business how to do this. And then you'll have a conclusion. In your replies, you are essentially a learning community, and you're providing feedback, which includes an analysis of the posts, connecting that to theory from the readings. So this is where I find out whether you've read the book, if you are connecting it to theory as to why it is that this particular application of the tools, this particular explanation of the tools is good, and it's graded on your understanding and the application of the theory. And then your final e-portfolio is due Wednesday of week 8. The thing that's really nifty about the e-portfolio function in my courses is that it allows you to create a downloadable e-portfolio. It's kind of like a PowerPoint template, but it has links to all of your documents, which in this case will be all these blogs. And you can create it in a downloadable format so you can take it with you and you can use it to show prospective employers or clients, this is what I can do for you. I can educate your people. Here are all the tools that apply to your business or that can apply to any business. And so that is why we're doing the e-portfolio project. Just a bit more on the e-portfolio. The sample blog format, there is a sample blog format in my courses, but these are the kinds of things that you should include when you're writing a sample blog. You should have a featured image of some kind, one that's interesting, that's intriguing, that helps get people to read your blog. Then an interesting title, that is your hook to really draw them in. Use headings to help people follow the content of your blog. Use footnotes because you don't want to be accused of plagiarism. Add 1 to 3 additional images to really illustrate the tools, illustrate the examples that you're doing, and then finally you want to make sure you have a list of references that cover all of your footnotes. Some ideas for a business or nonprofit. Remember, what you're doing is you're showing the reader how to develop a more sustainable small business using one of these as an example. Things like a green bed and breakfast, an organic restaurant, renewable energy business, green transportation, green retail, green construction, or sustainable fast food. If possible, you might want to find a business in your area that you can observe. It does not have to necessarily be sustainably focused. You do not have to go in and measure anything. That's what you're going to be doing in Capstone. But it might give you some ideas when you walk in. Now, remember, you also, if you choose a nonprofit, you are also writing your blogs to show the reader how to develop a sustainable nonprofit. Here are some ideas: a green museum, an environmental cleanup, homeless, poor, migrants, animal welfare, health concerns, green park management, addiction counseling, and religious organizations. All of those are possibilities for your sustainable nonprofit. And not absolutely critical, but you might try to find a similar nonprofit in your area that you can observe, or you can look at their website and see how they talk about themselves. One caveat that I have is that do not choose a protest organization, but one dedicated to performing a service. The primary reason for that is because you need to have something that needs space in order to do some of the activities, and most protest organizations don't have a separate office, or many don't, and they won't lend themselves to a lot of the activities that we're doing. So there are a lot of other options, and you can kind of take your pick. Okay, so we've talked about the work that's early in the week, before class, that is your e-portfolio. Let's now take a look at what happens in class. This is the kind of teamwork that you are going to do. You are going to be developing a team strategic plan. It's actually, you are going to be the green team for the College of Business, and each team is going to have a different area, a different SDG that you're going to focus on when creating your strategic plan. The activities, the class activities, by and large, are completed during class. They culminate in a real-world kickoff event in week 7, which we do try to invite some people to come in from the outside. Now, there are 4 communications projects that are started in class, but you probably will have to complete them after class and do some work on them after class. But in weeks 1 and 2, you are preparing a leadership briefing that you will be giving to the Dean of the College of Business, who is one of our key stakeholders. Also to Net Impact, who is going to be hosting the event. Weeks 3 and 4, you're doing statistical analysis of the survey data that you're collecting, real-world survey data from real-world people. In weeks 5 and 6, you're going to be developing your marketing materials, in order to invite people to your kickoff event. And so you will have an e-newsletter, social media posts, and a website that you will learn to develop. And then week 7 is the kickoff event. Now here's how the course activities are graded. There are 8 class activities that are 10 points apiece, the 4 communications projects that are 25 points apiece, the 7 individual portfolio assignments and discussions that are 10 points apiece, and 1 final individual portfolio that is 25 points, for a total number of points of 275. Again, just a quick preview of the course activities that you will have in the next class. You will be conducting a boatload of sustainability audits, different kinds of audits, different kinds of tools that we're using. You are going to learn how to use a number of different kinds of sustainability software. Obviously, you're not going to become an expert in all of these, but you will at least be able to have some exposure to them and practice with them some. We're going to use some other software as well, a little bit more in Excel, a little bit more in Lucid Chart, and Google SketchUp for 3D modeling, and trying some cutting-edge presentations like Prezi. Here are a couple of common questions that we often get. The first is, what happens if I have to miss a class? Well, it depends on the reason. If you have a valid excuse, then there's makeup work that you can do. Now, since a lot of the in-class work is team related, what happens if someone on my team doesn't participate? Make sure that when you submit those communications projects, that the names of the participants are on the submissions, because I really don't want somebody to get credit for something that they didn't do and they didn't help and they didn't learn. So if I don't have an idea of who all participated, then people are not going to be prepared for capstone. All individual parts of the contribution are graded differentially. So you want to make sure that you identify in those communications projects what parts that each person did, so that I can see that each part was or each person participated fairly equally. So if you have other questions, do please email me. For now, I think that's it, and you have your first assignment that is due Wednesday. It's the individual ePortfolio initial post. We can answer more questions on Thursday, and I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. We are going to have a heck of a good time. So have fun with this and enjoy the learning.